Here we go. The
This is
Saints are
good
going
podcast.
up. The Saints are Oh no, hang on. Just got to do some housework. Hang on. Well, the Saints are not going up. Apparently, we just file that away for next year. Yeah, that's far away. Even the blooming team photos falling on the ground now. That's how badly things are going. Sit there, don't move, you lot.
Carnage.
Right. Welcome. A pod full of Saints, episode whatever it is. A few days after we departed the playoff final with our tails well and truly between our legs. Right, we look back on that with myself, David Tavener, humming over there, Lee Wood.
And now the end is near. Boys, it is the last pod of the season. Tell the fat lady she's on in 5. Let's get this thing going.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Jake, your turn. Jake Ellacott.
Very good. Thanks for that, Dave. Hello, everyone.
Mic drop by Tavs. Nice and early.
We end the podcast season as I think everyone wanted, with an insult of me.
I'm not sure we are ending it. We've got other things in the pan, haven't we, which may keep this going a little while longer yet. But anyway, we start by looking back at this game. That is a programme for last Sunday's playoff final. Many thanks to Luke for buying me that. It's very kind of you, because he said he enjoys the podcast. Right, and wonderful it is. Well done, National League programme. £4 of absolute tripe.
You mind, Dave?
Yeah, well, yes. I'm going to say a few people came up to me, and they came up to you too as well. No, I hadn't seen them before. All saying hello, much like the pod. Well, one called Anthony came out, and I stood next to him for the first half. It's all chatty to start with. Within about 13 minutes, it was silent, and it was silent for the rest of the afternoon. We just didn't turn up, did we? A goal down in 3 minutes. We could have won ourselves before then. 2 down in 13. Could either of you two see a way back after that?
No.
All I could see was blue smoke in my eyes, because the Oxford Hood Rats had sort of let off a smoke bomb. I did say, Jacob, back me up, mate, in the week leading up to the game, I said the only way we don't win that game is if we don't turn up. And we didn't turn up. By God, we didn't turn up. Oxford did their homework exceptionally well. If you cast your mind back, Tabs, and I know you're going to pick up on this later on, mate, that in all the games this season, most teams have let us have the ball along our back line. They're very, competitive, but they're quite content and let us play along the back line, and then we build from there. They pressed exceptionally high on Sunday. They gave our defenders no time to set themselves. We had to distribute the ball earlier than what we needed to. Oxford were picking up on all the second balls. They did their homework exceptionally well. They didn't let us settle, and we didn't get any grips on the game at all.
We undoubtedly got caught completely. You said something there, a word which I used after the game to people as well, homework. I thought we hadn't done our homework. They had done theirs on ours. They dominated the midfield. The movement of their forwards was superb. And we didn't seem to know what to do with it. We didn't know what was coming. I went there with some hope, because go back to a January game at their place. We weren't great until about 70 minutes in. The last 20 minutes, we pummeled them. In that time, Ryan Blackman, his first game for the club, got his first and only goal so far, a great goal. And I took heart from that. But there was none of that on Sunday. There was none of that fight or anything. They had done their homework. It didn't look like we had. What about you, Jake? What's your view on that?
Yeah, sadly, it just looked like two teams that were totally gulfs apart, didn't it, really? For at least the first half, anyway. It was just total control from Oxford. I say we had a glimpse inside, a minute? And if we'd scored that, who knows? But apart from that, it was all one-way traffic. And I have to say, out of all the ways to lose the final, it wasn't actually the worst way, because I'd accepted we'd lost by about half hour, and I then had sort of good hour and a half there to just accept it. By the time we left the ground, we'd sort of accepted it and sort of said, let's try again next season. So, yeah, it was brilliant work from Oxford. Fair play. I don't think we have any qualms on the pitch from them. Absolutely superb. They deserved it. And as say, Dave, I think Lee's right about the pressing, but that midfield battle, and Zach McEachran, we sort of warned about him, didn't we, on the last podcast? And he sort of just ripped us to shreds. And
it was like a magician, wasn't he?
Yeah, and that game in January down at Oxford, I think it changed at the 60, 70-minute mark when we brought Ryan Blackman into midfield, and he did a brilliant job. Ryan just wasn't able to get any sort of footing midfield on Sunday. I say Oxford knew what to do. They'd prepared, and game was gone inside 13 minutes. A real shame, but oh well.
Glenn McConnell also came on in that January match, and he made a big impact on it that day as well. We'll come on to a team selection in a minute for Sunday, but that's another one we're going to want to look at. But we had that early chance, and you think we can do this. We lost that early goal. This team has got fight in it. It's got a terrible record, and it's the top sides. What's that? 15 games against the other sides in the top 7 this season. And we won only 3 of them. So we weren't good enough to go up. Nobby said it in his post-match, and those statistics back it up. If we can't get results against the top sides from this division, you're not going to do much in the National League, are you?
We've had some correspondence, believe it or not, quite a bit this week, unsurprisingly. I'm going to read you this email from Fadolza Afdal. He emailed in today, and this has got some very, very interesting points that we might want to touch upon. So bear with me. Good afternoon, guys. Looking forward to your reflection on the final defeat. I'd like to share my thoughts. I think the defeat was mainly down to Oxford executing the game plan really, really well, stopping Tafari and Devontae, and St Albans not having a plan B and not executing their plan A of stopping Zach, Fleet and Josh. Also, I think Tafari and Callum were not 100% fit, and everybody else looked nervous or tired or both. The same nervous energy we've seen all season at home. The 12:30 kickoff and the game not being played on a neutral ground would definitely have had both been factors at some point. Our midfield didn't attack or defend and got played through far too easily. Given the opposition time on the ball, and they were also detached from the front and the back line. And once again, we've seen this all season when teams sit in, with no real options in front of them, except for the odd long ball over the top. Che and Mitch should have been rested, and the fresher legs of Jeffers and McConnell should have started. To play the way Nobby wants to play, we need players who have been coached that way. It takes technical ability and hours of coaching. So the fact it got this far is a bonus and can only give us hope for the next season. All of the above is easy to say after the event, because all season, Nobby has previously stated we don't know which St Albans City is going to turn up. If we're honest, us even being in the playoffs was more of a reflection of a poor standard in the league than a deserving St Albans City team, because our inconsistent form plagued us for almost the entire season. That being said, to reach the final and produce probably our worst 45 minutes of the season and to lose in that manner with no heart or fight was shocking.
I think we'll endorse practically everything he said, and a lot of those things we have said during the season. He wrapped them up nicely. He said about the lack of plan B. Tim Petty has said it as well. We have to be more flexible in our style of play. And it's something, as I say, we've said it before, haven't we?
I think it's easy to lump on the boys. And there was a lot of high, raw emotion after the game on Sunday, Jake, wasn't there, on the train home? You know, the post-mortem started quite early, maybe as early as the 27th minute, I think, to be fair. But it was just. It was absolute just. We didn't learn from our mistakes. I mean, there's no doubting it. Oxford were by far the better side, much more deserving. But I think the ease in which they carved us open is just testament to how tired these boys are. But also, I think they, you know, it's really, really hard to put fault on the players that have done so well for us. Now, they've given us an absolute roller coaster ride this season, but we can only respond to what we've seen, and that first half was absolutely abysmal.
It's interesting, isn't it? I think we've all commented during the season. The league maybe is not as strong as we'd like to think it is, and we've managed to have bad runs, and we've still got into playoffs. In fact, our points total will get us into the playoffs most seasons because it goes so far down the table now. So it's not a fluke in that respect. It was merited along with previous seasons, but you never really felt that was a promotion winning side, did you, during the season?
No, but then I don't know. But then so often in the playoffs at all levels, there's always that one team that sort of makes it through, doesn't hit spectacular form. But then, you know, we did get through to a final. Braintree did it 6-7 years ago, got to the National League in the same, well, it's a very similar way. So I think it's harsh to say, you know, just a few weeks ago we were lauding the players, weren't we, and sort of saying how brilliant they had been recently, and they had. But I say, I think, you know, that first half at Oxford was really quite dreadful. There's no other way to talk about it or look at it. And I hope that game doesn't define the season. Of course it will to a big extent, but it has been a great season. We don't see many playoff campaigns at this club. When we do, they're normally successful. That makes Sunday a bit different compared to usual. But it has been a really good campaign. And I think you have to remember from where David Noble took over to where we've gotten to the playoff final. I never expected it. The other week I was thinking back to that lone, well, not lonely, but that slightly miserable Tuesday evening in the summer when we were down at Harpenden, and we snuck past them, and it wasn't the most great of results, and everything was looking a bit tiresome in the summer. But now look at us where we've gone. Absolutely brilliant progress. But it's just such a shame it had to end that way. And I think you could tell from the reactions from the players at the end, just they knew that was just not good enough for a promotion final against any opposition.
I want to commiserate with Dylan Berry. Obviously, that second goal. It was his 20th birthday, so at least he celebrated it with an assist. It's a shame it wasn't the other end. But because without Dylan's performance the previous week at Dartford, we wouldn't have been there Sunday, would we? We would have gone down by 2 or 3 goals at Dartford. So he's got to put that behind him. He's a good keeper. We know he's a good keeper. And it's just one of those things, wasn't it? The modern game encourages that. You see these happening at the top level. It happens at our level. Why clubs, including ours, play that way, I don't know. It got us a goal at Worthing. They gifted us one in the same manner. It's a stupid way of playing. You do get caught, and it's costly.
Tabs, you're a class act, mate. You're a class act. I thought you were going to go all in on the way, like literally proper head explosion time thing about how the way we play around the back. We had, I had a conversation with someone at half time, a fan. He was losing his mind about the way we were playing, and yet we weren't learning from our mistakes, etc. I think we have to realise that this is the way David Noble wants us to play, out from the back. And okay, if you get caught the first time, you know, it wasn't great by any stretch. It just wasn't. And I don't think we learned that they were just going to keep pressing us from the off. We weren't going to get the ball back easily or cheaply, and it's all about ball retention when you do play out from the back, but we just weren't doing it well enough.
That letter you got there, Lee, the letter you got that mentions about the hours you've got to put into it if you're going to try and play that way. But they do put the hours in at the top level, and it still goes wrong. It's a nonsense that coaches, they're just clones of each other. Clones. There's no individuality now. You see it everywhere. Come on, somebody, get a grip and come up with something new. We'll go back to the old way.
But what I would say to you, though, Dave, is that it works at Chelmsford and Dartford, you know, to a degree. And don't forget, when I shook Lawrence's hand, the coroner's hand, after the game on Sunday, and he says, we are on a upward trajectory. Now, listen, how far, how high, and how long we go on that trajectory is up to him. This lays very much firmly first on his lap and then on the management. It's now about, we've set a bar, okay? And that is the very, very minimum now that this club should expect. It's going to get harder because the teams coming up and down, respectively, are tougher. So we have to recruit properly. We have to recruit well. And that's going to cost money. Now, I think we've got to get the players in who can work to David Noble's tactics. And as you say, they do take hours and hours of coaching. Nobby's got the whole summer now. So when we come back for the first game of the season in August, fans, rightly or wrongly, are going to expect that level and that quality of player to implement his style of play. Now, whether that's going to be an immediate offset, mate, we don't know. Because obviously there's going to be a lot of comings and goings at Clarence Park over the summer months. So it's just a matter of now, it worked in some cases really, really well in the lead up to that final. So I can understand them adopting it as well.
Lee, I'll go along with, we're going to do that tedious passing across the pitch, backwards. But I understand that. What I don't understand is the meddling around it in your own penalty area. A goalkeeper passes the ball to the left back, then you pass it back to the goalkeeper, by which time there's somebody coming down on him. No, you do that well up the pitch. You don't do it in your own penalty area because it's a recipe for disaster. and we got punished for it, which hopefully we will learn from and modify our ways next season.
Tactical genius, Jake. What's your input, buddy?
I don't think we're ever going to agree, are we? Which I think is fair enough. It's one moment in a final that sadly cost us, but then I think even if that hadn't happened, I think we still lost 3-0, to be honest, given the way Oxford played and the way they pressed us that first half. At least we drew the second half 0-0. That's a good result. But yeah, it was all
It's better than that, Jake. You've got to admire Nobby's thinking, getting Sean on there after 36 minutes. So we've got our chief penalty taker ready for the penalty shootout. We're 3 down at the time, but, that's forward thinking, isn't it?
It was really funny because we bumped into Tafari Moore at the station on Sunday morning and we asked if he was fit and he said, yeah. And as soon as he said yes, I thought, I wonder if Jeffers is going to start, and I don't think he would. And it turned out to be that way. And Mitch wasn't in the game at all. Che looked leggy. He failed to sort of track back and tackle that fella for the for the third goal. It was just too easy. They looked tired. And they should have been tired because they've given us everything this season, the boys, since Nobby took over. So,
well, come on then. Let's look at that team.
You got it wrong.
We got the pleasure of thank you. Did Nobby get it right? You reckon straight away he's got it wrong. Absolutely. What changes? What would you have gone with, Venley?
Well, look, you've got to start Jeffers, and I know this is like it's a tedious argument now. I'm not saying you should have dropped Mitch, but you should have started Jeffers in a game of that stature, a goal scorer. We're not playing for stats. We're not playing for data on the fitness belts they wear. We are looking for goals, and goals are going to win you games. And that bloke's got 28 of them or whatever it is. We keep harping on about it, but that is almost a defining question of the entire season. Not the great results we've had, not the way we've been playing football, not the crowds we've got, not the way we've engaged the football, spectrum. This is it. Our season has been rested upon, will Jeffers start? It's like who shot JR? It's been the question on everyone's lips. But it shouldn't have got that far. It's quite evident that Nobby likes to bring Sean on, but it's a very expensive and dangerous gamble to make, and he came up short on Sunday.
What about you, Jake? Would you have gone with the same 11 as Nobby?
No, I would have started Sean. I think for me in a final, I think after Dartford and Chelmsford, he didn't play well at Dartford, to be honest, but Chelmsford, he scored that winning goal, didn't you? And when you see him that starting 11, you have that little bit of faith and confidence. And I think the thing is, we know Mitch is in the team for his running and his pressing, but when Oxford are going to press you like that, you can't counter press. You are not going to be able to do that because you're going to be constantly on the back foot, and you need sort of a figure up front to almost act as that outward ball. Jeffers isn't perfect at that job, but he's the best player we have doing that job up the front. And he just wasn't there, was he, for that first half hour? There was no way of getting out. And also, I said on the way to the ground and in the train that if Jeffers doesn't start and we go behind early, the pressure is on and there is a real danger there. And it happened, annoyingly. I hate it when I'm right, which is about once in 10 years.
So do we.
And it did happen. And it just it never felt like, did it? And I think as well, that chance inside the first minute, Mitch a bit unlucky, and then Shane not to put away the follow up. You just think anyone else there, Sean Jeffers, he might not necessarily got to the ball, but he possibly, could have got the rebound or whatever. That goes in, doesn't it? It's just infuriating.
Yeah, look, it's all ifs, buts, and maybes, isn't it? At the ultimate time. Yeah. But the thing is, though, Dave, we spoke to Kevin Mudd before the game. We spoke to various players. Elliot Bailey was standing 2 feet in front of me. We had a little chat, just about, and it's all about team selection. That's all the chat starts off with. Oh, why is Jeffers dropped? Could you imagine any other walk of life where Harry Kane doesn't start for Spurs in a cup final? Not that that's going to happen, but it's it's all relative. But you just don't do it. But it lacks it. What message does it send to Sean?
What message? We said it before. What message does it send to the opposition? They're not playing Sean Jeffers. That's a weight off our mind. Well, you mentioned earlier about his 28 goals. He got 29 in all competitions, 28 in the league. So you got a 29 goal striker on the bench. Our starting 11 had 34 goals between them. You got a 29 goal striker on the bench. You got Glenn McConnell, 5 more on the bench. The Oxford team, their starting 11 had 58 goals between them on the pitch. They had players on that pitch who could score goals. We didn't. We had some of them come up with occasional goals, but that lot, the highest one amongst them, could only get a third, less than a third of what Sean got. It made no sense at all. I would have also played Glenn McConnell, as you know. I just feel his creativity on that pitch would have been good for us. Maybe wrong.
Are you his agent?
Go along with that, listen. Well, yeah, you're the chap who sent that letter in earlier, Jake, Lee. He's also his agent. But all right, we might as well get on to the next point then. It is clear Sean does not figure in Nobby's plans from what we've seen. He's dropped him so many times this season now. It doesn't sound like he really wants him there next season. I may be wrong if we're reading it wrong. Sorry, David, but that's the way it's coming across. So we get rid of Sean, and Nobby signs a player. He says, "I've got this striker. He gets 25 goals a year. Easy answer. He's what we want. He runs around." You're getting rid of a player who scores more than 25 a season in his last 2 seasons for us. Has Nobby put himself in a difficult position?
I think he's put himself in a very clear position in so much that he doesn't want Sean Jeffers in his starting 11. Now, he's a very expensive squad player. You know, if you believe what you read and what you hear, you know, this fellow's commanding the good part of nearly £1,000 a week if he has a couple of goals to his name as well. So David Noble hasn't got a lot wrong this season since he's taken over. But Sunday certainly was a big mistake in terms of not starting Sean. But he sat down with us a couple of weeks ago, a couple of fans. We had a really good chat with him, and he was sincere and he was honest. He said he just didn't realise how much or how little Sean Jeffers ran until he sort of looked at it from the sidelines, and he was his teammate for 2-3 years or whatever it was. I hope he's got a plan of attack, because we know he likes to play on the shoulder in the fast strikers running in behind, but good strikers of that quality that cost money, and he's either going to have to rely heavily on getting another league loan signing from somewhere, which gives you no security whatsoever, or you have to go out and you have to highlight someone. Now, I mean, to be fair, Sean's done nothing wrong other than he doesn't run as far for David's liking. But it's a very, very slim example of not to start someone of that quality in a final of that calibre.
Imagine if Tottenham hadn't played Jimmy Greaves because he doesn't run around. If you take him out aside next year and we get another player who can run around, like Edler's chicken or whatever, but take away Sean's goals, well, straight away we've got a relegation battle on our hands. Well, what do you think, Jake? Your opinion on it?
I don't think it's as extreme as Noble doesn't want Sean featuring in his plans at all. I think it's with how much he has brought him off the bench. I think he sees him as an impact player that can change games at vital points. But I agree that Noble has backed himself into a difficult corner with this. And it's difficult to see where it goes at the minute in the summer. As Lee said, he's an expensive player to be sat on the bench. Also, there's not many players that score that many goals in the National League South. He's been absolutely brilliant in front of goal for a lot of this season. He's been clinical. He's scored goals. He scored important goals as well. Concord, Chelmsford, just in the last month. 2 games there that sort of changed the season. And he's been really important. It's just so, I think for most fans, want to see Sean starting most weeks and featuring and know how important he is. But it's a difficult situation. And if Sean is to go, we know he's on a 2-year contract. Where does he go at the minute? And if he does go to another rival in the division? And are you then strengthening another team in the league? It's really difficult at the minute. But for me, I think Sean's got to stay, and I think Sean's got to be starting games because, 29 goal strikers, in a season where he hasn't featured much starting wise in the last 2 months, they don't come along very often, do they? And I think we've been lucky in recent seasons with strikers we've picked up that have scored goals for us. You know, as I say, if we pick up a dud up next season who can't score goals, we're going to be not competing where the club and also the supporters, there's pressure now from supporters next season to have a team that is going to be pushing for, you know, a top 7 finish, and you need a goal scorer to do that.
Well, he's 31 years old, so he's got 2 or 3 years left in him, you'd have thought, of this level. Particularly as, according to the management, he doesn't run around enough, so he's still got the energy to knock the ball in the net. I, I find it hard to believe we're going to try and offload him without a guaranteed expensive replacement. Of course, if he goes, he won't be the only one going. Dylan Berry, back to Norwich. Aidan Francis Clark, back to Luton Town. Shay Cooper, back to Colchester United. And Glenn McConnell, back to Cambridge United. Nobby straight away has got a lot of rebuilding to do. He's only signed one player, really, since he joined the club, which is Ryan Blackman, whose loan's now up and he signed permanently for next season. I think we can see Nobby relying heavily on the loan system again, but you've got to make some proper signings as well, haven't you?
I think.
Yeah, go on.
Sorry, I think first of all, I think we should say thank you and well done to all those lads that are returning from their loans, because they've all been absolutely brilliant servants this season.
They've done all right.
Yeah, they've done really well. I think by far it's the best crop of loan players we've had in goodness knows how many years. They've actually all featured, all had a great impact, and I think that's a testament to them and Nobby as well. I think he's done brilliantly, and the recruitment team to get them in. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing if we've got a lot of turnover this summer, because I'm actually quite excited to see what David can do in the transfer market and put a mark on this team. Let's be honest, he's brought in these loan players, but the squad as a whole, you know, is a big squad. I mean, you forget you've still got Chris Paul banging around the club somewhere. I mean, I don't know where he's been. I don't know.
Where's Liam Salt? They're in Vida.
Exactly. I mean, Liam's been out on loan, hasn't he, for the rest of this season? I mean, there's a lot of players. Nobby will have now a good amount of time to shape this squad into a squad that he wants with players that he wants. And I'm really excited to see what he can do with it. So as long, you know, there's a lot of players leaving this summer loan and maybe other players as well. But it'll be very interesting. As you say, David, I suspect we will see Nobby use his connections in the Football League to get loan players. But if they work out like they did this season, I don't mind that to complement the squad. But I think there is going to be a lot of change. But I think it's great that David is going to get almost a blank canvas to shape the squad like he wants.
Don't forget though, boys, it's not as though he's ripping the soul out of the entire side. Look at the players that are going to be here. Michael Johnson in goal, you know, a very, very, handy replacement. You've got Tafari, you've got Devontae, you've got Joy McKenna, who's come on absolutely leaps and bounds. And after giving him a hard season last year, has shut me right up because he's been absolutely fantastic. You've got Blackman, you've got Wiltshire, you've still got Sean Jeffers, and Mitch, of course, and Zane Banton. There's a really good unit there. But in his post-match, David Noble said, we have to improve the squad. We have to improve and we have to go one better. Now, that's a statement of intent, and that's probably what you would expect him to say after such a demoralising defeat like that. But, as you say, Jake, let's give him the finances to really sort of kick us on now. I think, thankfully, long gone are the days where we're signing strikers from 2-3 leagues below and hoping they come good. We want to be bringing these little stars down and really helping us get back up to that level as well, because that's where we need to be. That is the bar. That is the absolute pinnacle of where we want to be setting our sights up, not looking down.
Well, that's interesting because you say players from lower level. Mitchell Weiss is a fine example, actually, of it working. Mitch probably hasn't scored as many goals.
I could give you 5 others, Dave, that didn't, mate.
Yeah. But his goals aside, his contribution to the side has been excellent. He's been a very good signing, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So sometimes it works, but you're right, quite often it doesn't.
And Devontae Stanley, Tafari Moore, both signings from lower. Tafari Moore obviously had a bit more with Arsenal, but both those, they can work. It can be hit and miss, but I think like Lee says, I think David this summer will be looking to sign players that are established to this level and have that quality to kick us onto the next level. And that's why I'm excited to hear what he said about that post-match. Sure, it's raw emotions, but it's great to hear. And I think David has brought back that winning mentality to the football club, which was probably lacking up until his sort of taking over as manager, I think.
Yeah, Nobby says about strengthening the squad for next season. Of course, we all breathed a sigh of relief on Monday when we found out we're staying in National League South. We weren't being shoved into
Yeah.
the North. Bishop Stortford have got that pleasure, and you can't help but
Mm.
sympathise with them. But the South, assuming the club's coming down and not in huge financial difficulty, there's a question mark about Yeovil, I believe. It does look like being a much stronger league next season, doesn't it?
Well, we've gained 2 full-time teams immediately. Torquay and Yeovil have both said they're staying full-time. You suspect Maidstone will still be some form of full-time. So you've got 3 there immediately on top of the likes of Havant and Dartford, etc. It's going to be a really strong league. I think, like you say, I think Yeovil, they look to be okay financially now. I think there's still question marks over Southend's position. I know they've got a big meeting coming up with the tax people, so I don't know if there might be a reprieve for someone coming up. We don't know what's going to happen there. But I think whatever happens, it's a really strong league. Even Truro and Western, both good teams who have not been afraid to spend the money to improve their squads and get them promoted back to this level. It's going to be really, really difficult. And I think a lot of us before the game on Sunday were saying, this is the season to do it if you are to go up via the playoffs. Because next season, the fact that we've got teams like Yeovil and Torquay back again it's ridiculously for this level of football, isn't it?
We were talking about there's absolutely one thing that will happen. There's going to be a lot of cider being consumed next season, boys, because the West Country is going to take an absolute battering. I believe Stortford were toying with the idea of appealing the decision of them going up into the North. And I know a few years ago there was the opportunity for Braintree to voluntarily go up into the North because they are a bit higher than Stortford, but they're a bit outwards. So, and they were going to get some compensation from the league for sort of doing so to sort of, facilitate their journeys, etc., etc. So, I don't think it's a done deal just yet. You have to feel for Stortford, but they've done it before. It's not new to them, So it's go on.
We must have been under serious threat of going up there. With Oxford going up as well,
Yeah.
that made our position even weaker, really. You're right, geographically, Braintree is higher than Stortford, but both of them are out on the dog leg out towards the east.
Yeah.
You could see when an appeal going in and they say, okay, well, hang on. You've got the M1 coming down here, goes to St Albans and Hemel Hempstead. You've got the A1 coming down, close to St Albans. It could be us or Hemel. Wouldn't it be sad to see Hemel go north?
Well, look, the fact is, we don't want to sort of talk about Hemel on this podcast. Stortford, look, both of their fans are going to have a wonderful time playing up north, mate. So it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be what? Sorry. I've had a few beers. I don't care. So yeah, but look, it is unfortunate, and of course you do feel for them, but much rather them than us, right? So
yeah. Getting back to last Sunday, the ground. Well, we said beforehand that ground was not up to staging that sort of game, and thankfully it proved it. It was a nightmare. I heard a voice behind me say after 90 minutes, he said, 80 minutes gone. At last, I could see both goals, and he won't have been the only one. There was loads behind us, loads in the other areas. If you're not right at the front, you couldn't see. We had the big wigs from the league down there, the same people who gave that ground is it called conference anymore? A National League grading. It would have been nice had they not sat in those blooming seats all day, which are awful anyway. I've sat in those and tried to watch a game, and the view from there is shocking. It'd be nice if they got out and just walked round and had the same view that most spectators had, which wasn't a view at all, because you just couldn't get close to the perimeter fence. That ground is not up to it. It's not Oxford's fault. They should have been told you can't get into this league. It's the league's fault for letting them into it and then saying you can also go into that league.
A little bit their fault.
The league got it totally wrong. No, it's not, because they would accept if they're told you can't go in that league, you can't go in it.
Well, they built the ground, but yeah, okay, fair enough. I accept it. Yeah. The thing is, the second half, I think quite a lot of us City fans in the away end just gave up because we couldn't see anything. Could we, Jake? We sat and sort of chatting away, and what little we did see wasn't particularly pleasing on the eye. City gave it a little bit of a go, a little bit of a huff and a puff in the second half, but the whole ground. But the people were lovely. Like the people on the ground, they were fantastic. people working behind the scenes at Oxford, they were really good. I got given a hospitality ticket because I know the fella from the media side. We did some work together at Oxford United, so that was nice. But apart from that, it was just an absolutely atrocious day. And look, they're going to have to do some serious work to that ground to make sure that it's up to conference standards. So good luck to them. That's going to take a few quid as well.
And also, the league have got to look at themselves for the distribution of the tickets. That ground could have been fenced off 50-50 comfortably. You just shut it off at the end of either stand, and we would have had the whole of that end where we had just the quarter. 550. As we mentioned last week, our average gate 1,400, theirs 430, and yet the league, I don't know what they were playing up and not insisting that it's a 50-50 split. It's bizarre, isn't it? But there you go. And we shan't take the National League off because we're still in it, and I think they're wonderful people.
I think, it wasn't I stood behind the goal. I managed to cram into the terracing behind the goal. Well, I say behind the goal, slightly to the left of the goal. It was not a pleasurable experience. I think there's a few incidents as well. I think people at Oxford City tried their best, but you do worry for them next season in the National League when there are bigger clubs coming down there with much more raucous support, shall we say. And if they're crammed in that corner, I think there's going to be a lot of issues. Saw a few issues on Sunday. I think there's also a medical incident as well caused by, I think, really the how many people were squeezed in there. It was just poorly run, sadly, off the pitch there, and it just wasn't pleasurable. When I say you couldn't see a blooming thing, I think it's just a real shame for that to be the location for a final. And I think as well, you talk about those seats, Dave. I think Malcolm McMillan was sat in there. And from what I could stand, he could barely see anything because of, again, just the design of the ground, just absolutely awful and just not a pleasurable experience. I mean, it's cramped enough when there was 600 on in there when we were in January. It probably wasn't even 600 there in January. So it was even worse on Sunday.
Tell you what, it's a shame. Sorry, go on.
Where they had that tower with a camera, which is in our part, which
people were climbing up it.
People were, and you can't blame them one bit. And that shouldn't have been there. What it should have had was what Chelmsford has, is these portable terracing. Stick one of those there and stick one next to the school board, and people would have been able to see, and you'd have got more people in there, shoot it carefully, and it would have been fine. Would have helped everybody. But the other thing, it wasn't a toilet block at our end, was there? We had the portaloos just outside the ground, which are wonderful. You go in there, the flusher didn't work. You go water from the taps didn't work. But there's something that looked like a gear stick. I was afraid to pull it in case I ended up driving this damn thing all around Oxford. But it was incredible.
This has just transcended into fast.
Also, there was no away turnstiles, was there? I mean, there was a gate with some people stood at it.
There was a hole in the hedge.
There's leak. And also, I mean, we haven't really talked about it, but the pitch, as we know at Oxford City, is absolutely terrible to play on for the away teams. I think, the ball goes off everywhere. And interestingly, the talk on the Oxford City forum is that pitch has failed and it needs replacing this summer. So, it's just...
A number of people who watch it on TV, Jake, and that was the thing they mentioned about a pitch. Because they couldn't understand the black things, the black nodules. We knew it was coming. Oh, it's awful.
I have to say, that is another disappointment for me. So, shock coming is that I was in the pub Friday, Saturday in the build-up to the big game on Sunday. I know, it's scandalous thought, but hear me out. And they were all talking about the game. What side's it on? And they were asking the landlady, what time they can get in the pub from and start. Have we got a scarf we can hang up? I'm talking Hare and Hounds, White Hot Tap, Garibaldi was a massive thing. The Goat, they're all showing the game. And there were pubs all across the city showing it. And people were talking about it. It was the only thing on their lips for that Sunday. And I think it was just such a disappointment to have such a poor result as well. I don't know anybody really in St Albans. Well, actually, no. There's one person who doesn't know we've got a football club. That's one of my neighbours. He's into motorbikes, F1. He's a nice enough fella, but he's the sort of person that keeps dead cats in his freezer, But the thing is, and I'm pretty sure he was pulling my plonker when he said, I went out to the game in my colours. I didn't even realise we had a football club. But I'll tell you what, mate, he was the only one, because there were people talking about this club all weekend. And it's just a real disheartening thing to see the way we performed on TV, those pubs would have been absolutely loving it, And imagine if we would have gone up, we got more exposure, and more people will be saying our name in the way it's meant to be said. Not the fact we're now getting absolutely dicked on 4-0 on national TV on a Sunday morning. But look, we talked about this before, Dave. It's where we want to be now. We've set the bar, Tavs. We've set the bar. The type of players that we want to play. We've got a good manager. We've got ambitious owners. And let's see now if they're true to their word come over the next few months.
Well, we got dinked 4-0 last time we were on TV as well, and that wasn't even a Sunday.
Yeah.
And another one of your neighbours, Ian Hall, has been in touch. I know you try not to talk about him. His point is to do with the ticketing. Because it's ridiculous we only have 550. We all know that, and it was going to cause problems. He's asking why were season ticket holders allowed to buy an extra ticket for a child, where a paying adult who's gone to every game this season is not a season ticket holder, couldn't have access to a ticket. It's something to be looked at for the future, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel for the club. I think they were very much forced by the Oxford City allocation, weren't they? I think it's difficult for them, and obviously with stuff like family season tickets, there's that difficult balance. I will say, being stood behind that goal, there was a lot of probably under 18s that I didn't really recognise from Clarence Park that hadn't really been there much. A couple sort of said to me, "Oh, I've only been once or twice this season." So I'd like to know how they all got tickets. Sadly, some of them were causing trouble. I think some, well, not causing trouble, but just being kids. I think they were. Some of them sadly being abusive to our players as well in the second half, and sort of calling them every word under the sun. I think in reality, there's no need for that. So yeah, it was just, it's a real shame. And the ticket allocation situation, there was never going to be any winners, was there? I think there was a lot of issues caused by it. I think even the Oxford City stewards seemed to give up in the end, didn't they? And sort of just let through sort of anyone that sort of said they were in the St Albans supporter in the home end. It was just lots of problems. Just a logistical nightmare, wasn't it?
It's outrageous, those kids having to go at players, Jake. I mean, crikey, that's what we're here for.
Right. And don't you do it well, David? But in all fairness, though, that said, right, we've got, I noticed that I spoke to a couple of fellas who in the away end, and the football operations manager was still giving out tickets to friends of the club on Friday afternoon. And that's fine because they would have allocated that in their lot. But, there's people there who have taken the place of a genuine long-term fan. Now, how you police that properly, I don't know, because there were people there who perhaps shouldn't have been there, people who weren't there that should have been there. But it's called a conscience, Lee. You have a conscience when you're handing those tickets out. But obviously that goes out the window when you want to look after your friends. Well, yeah.
I was distracted. I didn't hear that right. Don't repeat that. I don't know what you said.
Okay. I think no, but you're not 100% wrong, Dave. I think it's very important for us that this doesn't sort of turn into sour grapes. We were there. I think if you wanted to be there at the game, you probably would have been there. I think the trust did a good job as well in getting some transport. Yeah. But look,
all these problems come because the league didn't put pressure on Oxford City. Again, I blame the league, rightly or wrongly.
Is this the league we're still going to be in next season, Dave, that you've apologised?
Lovely league, yes.
Right, okay, cool. So, this is it, boys. This is it.
No, we've got some awards. We've got some awards.
What? Yes.
Ryan Blackman, he nearly run out of time. 2 minutes to go. He managed to get that 10th booking of the season, so he picked Zane and Kyron to top bookings of the season. That's not bad in 21 games. That put to one side. You look a great signing, Ryan, and we look forward to having you next season. We look forward to that. Other ones as well. Bernard Tomlin's been in touch, a friend of his programme. Of course, we had him on it, didn't we? Former chairman, entertaining character, of course, and all that. He sent another photo because his walking football team in Spain has won another competition. They keep winning one every week, as far as I can tell from the photos I keep getting.
Who are they playing?
Backdrops.
Just a bunch of stray dogs in the street or something. What are they doing?
People that walk in with Slav and his team, obviously. Anyway, well done, Bernard. But he also mentions Alan Cochrane, a former City player, one of, in my mind, our greatest player, a former City manager, and also another interviewee on here. Cockers has won an award, Coronation Champions Award. 500 of these were given out to celebrate the work of extraordinary volunteers. And he gets a Coronation Champions pin badge, a signed certificate from Their Majesties, and an invite to some do. That's all to do with his work at Brentford Penguins. And it's fantastic work he's done, and it's great that he's recognised, isn't it?
It is fantastic. I think it just emphasises the fact that community, it should be the absolute core of every single football club up and down this land, and that harks back to the volunteers that we've got as well. We've got some absolute diamonds in there, and without whom the club wouldn't be in the state it is now. So that's good.
I've got another awards as well, 2 awards to one player, which these are words we never thought we would say. See what you think, Jake. Dipo Akinyemi, Scottish Championship Player of the Year and the Scottish PFA Player of the Year. Well, we all saw that coming, didn't we, when he left us?
I mean, he scored that great goal, didn't he? That lob in like his first game. So that sort of really set the tone for the next 7 years. So fair play, Dipo. Many great memories with the Saints.
Yeah.
Maybe there's hope for us all. Up north, boys. You know what I mean? We can all get a game somewhere.
Well, you do a lot of programs up north, Lee. So maybe that's sort of similar quality. I don't know.
The programs are better than the quality of the players, I think, mate. If I'm honest, but let's not go there. So, speaking
we
of
are getting towards the end now. Yes.
Who won the prediction league between Jacob and I?
Jake had an outstanding year compared to previous years. He got one right.
Yeah, great stuff.
For which he will get an award, of course. And you got 4 correct results, Lee.
Hey, champagne all round, Jacob.
I mean, Lee got some very accurate results, but did I not get more results generally, sort of more wins and losses correct? I believe I've heard.
You got quite a few outcomes correct, Jake. But
hey,
you're just stabbing in the dark there, aren't you? Really.
But Ben Griffiths, friend of the pod, still owes me that dry cleaning bill for my jacket from Hemel away. Did ask whether, Dave, you can sort of put a tally of a table together for my predictions, because he suspects we probably would have won the league by about 20 points based on my predictions.
Benny G. Benny G.
So,
just looking now. Oh, yes, we won it in mid-September. Well done, Jake.
Easy, even before Nobby. Shows how good we are. I think before we leave, I think it's worth us mentioning thank you to everyone that has watched this season. As Dave says, we're probably not really going anywhere over the summer. We'll be around at certain points in the summer. So good luck with that. But yeah, I think a lot of people have watched podcasts this season. So many people have said hello to us. Been absolutely brilliant. I'd like to say hello to the bloke who said hello to me in Harpenden yesterday. Didn't get your name. Sorry about that. I'd like to hello for our American watcher, Nick, who tweeted us on Sunday. Hello to Nigel. Hello to Simon as well, who tweeted us last night, thanking us for another great season. And I think we'd all 3 of us would like to thank you all for watching this season. It's been absolutely brilliant, and especially the last few weeks. Absolutely amazing, isn't it?
There's obviously chuffle on TV, mate. If they've got time to watch us waffle on for an hour.
But talking of Nick in America, I don't suppose it's the same one, Jake, but since I've been going the early 70s, I've known Nick Moon, and he was watching it. He just arrived in Philadelphia on Sunday, so he watched it out there.
And I want to say thank you to Sam, who came up to me at the game on Sunday and said hello. We've had so many people come up to us in the street and at the games, etc. It really does mean a lot. Seriously, you have absolutely no idea. But providing that these 2 clowns are going to give me a holiday, we're going to be in and around the podcast world at various points over the course of the next few months. So do keep your correspondence coming in, emails and tweets and direct messages. Jacob, one last time, is going to give us all the information you need.
Yeah, the email's in the description below. It's worth reading that whole thing. Dave puts a lot of effort into it. And the Twitter is at a pod full of Saints. Yeah, thank you all very much. Dave, do you have any sort of last messages of this season you'd like to share?
At the Southern League or the conference?
I would like to congratulate David Noble actually for the job he's done. I know we've given him a tough time today, and we have questioned his teams at times. But I admire his courage. He plays a team. He puts a team out there he wants to put in, rather than he thinks people want to see, and he knows he's going to live and fall by those decisions. And we like you, Nobby. You've got our backing. But we would like to see Sean play, I think. But have a great summer, Nobby. Good luck in the players you get, and all the new supporters that came towards the end of the season. It's great.
Keep coming.
Hopefully we've got something good for you to come along with next year. And everybody who does come up to us and thank us for the podcast, it's terrific. Thank you.
I've got one last thank you, and that's to you two fellas, because, you know, collectively, we don't know what we've created here. We don't know where it's going to go or how long for, but it's been massive fun this season, as it was last. And here's to the future, boys, should we say?
Wow, look at that. I think I have one more thank you as well, and that is to Nobby and the players for a lot of memories created this season that have allowed us to enjoy this and enjoy St Albans City. It's a community club with all our friends and mates, and it's been a great season. And we will speak to you again, hopefully, very, very soon. So thank you all very much for watching this one, and we will see you again soon. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Yeah, and I'd like to wish Mabel and Maverick a good summer as well. We'll see you next season.